So we are going to be fielding questions. We will start out with Ms. Cole. You heard our presentation. If you have any direct question for Ms. Cole, you can just indicate at this point and we'll field them. If not, we will jump into questions to our other panelists. We're going to be examining how it is that they have adjusted. What have they used? What methods have they used? What have they tried? It didn't work, but they had to revamp, come again. And we're going to be going into it this afternoon. Any questions firstly for Ms. Cole? I take that as a no. And if there are any, you can just indicate. If you do not wish to ask your questions out, you can also field them to Ms. Rondine Archer. So Rondine will ask you at this time just to indicate in the chat so persons will know they can field their questions through you and we will get to ask them here. All right. Firstly, when we look at COVID-19, the thought was, okay, this was just another, sickness. In 3 months' time, we're going to carry on with our lives again because it's just going to come and go. Now, COVID has been around with us for a while. So it's been over 2 years and just about almost 2 for Jamaica on our shores. Question, and I'm throwing this one out to Mrs. Burke-Harris. With regards to the pandemic, have you seen any negative effects with regards to your employees? How has it, in essence, how has it impacted your employees and what it is that you had to do as the HR manager to combat this effect?
Thank you, Jermaine. Good evening, everybody, and nice for having me. I see a lot of persons on the call that I'm familiar with. Hi. And thanks to Michelle for setting that bar with that presentation. It's all impromptu for me because I wasn't so prepared. But in all fairness, COVID is somewhat of a blessing in disguise, really. For the most part, even the entry-level staff didn't have equipment such as laptops. I mean, Shani Saywood is on the call. When we first went 100% remote in March of 2020 with our contact center. And that would have been exposing persons with trust and, with persons' personal information, but we had to do what we had to do, right, Jermaine? So one of the things we did was equip staff with the necessary and the appropriate tools that they would have needed to stay home safely in their homes. I wouldn't say necessarily it has negatively impacted staff more than the sickness itself and to put them out of operation, and their team, of course, would have suffered from the influx in additional duties. But all in all, as a telecoms nation and a huge nation at that matter, we have proactively acted on the benefits of COVID. And here is why we can safely say now we have all employees, in exception of the auxiliary team, who are equipped with laptops to work from home.
Thank you so much. And a follow-up would be, your organization is the bigger, better network.
That is correct.
I'm sure they do things differently. So what are the innovative ideas that, that were implemented to mitigate staff, getting ill, working from home?
Sure, everything had to be done in a virtual sphere. Face-to-face meetings have been transformed to Teams meetings. Face-to-face interaction with engagement has now been somewhat summed in a virtual space where we mostly do giveaways and so on to keep the teams engaged. And of course, the department will have their own initiatives. Also, we have hotlines. If it is that it gets too daunting at home or the pressures of work from home, they can reach out to our on-call psychiatrists and therapists where it's free of cost, and they schedule their time to speak to them whenever they want. We've had that. So we've had health and wellness seminars. We've had town halls. We've had person coming in to give coaching on wellness, well-being, health, financial help. So we've just put everything in this whole virtual sphere to assist them with coping with the heaviness of COVID whilst trying to do the productivity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to be going over to another side of the sphere, and we're going to be jumping in education. Mrs. Brown-Auld is here. And my question for you, Mrs. Brown-Auld, with regards to the implementation, you're a bursar working in a secondary school system, and you too would have had to be supervising and, you know, that sort of level of work. With regards to the implementation of safety measures for your organization, your school environment, did you face any challenges? And if so, would you just share with us one or two of those challenges that were implemented? Challenges that were experienced, sorry, in your implementation.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you well.
Okay, thanks for having me. Well, as it relates to our institution, yes, we met challenges, but we were able to take ourselves through them. And I would say we came out successfully. We have both administrative, ancillary, and teaching staff. Now, when COVID came, I mean, the government announced that we had to shut down. So, you know, persons had to transition to working from home. But as it relates to our ancillary staff, that could not happen because you can't do cleaning remotely. So you had to be in the physical space. And yes, there were challenges because even though they were used to that cleaning aspect of it, there was another side to it where they had to do much more of a deep cleaning. And we had to acquire additional equipment, additional stuff, just to ensure that we were meeting the protocols as they would have it and get things out of the way. As it relates to the administrative aspect of it now, some persons worked remotely, some went on a holiday because I guess they were not too savvy, as you would want to put it. So they got a break, but those persons were able to work remote. It was challenging at first for some of them, but they gradually got it, and persons would still have to be paid. So that had to be done. So I think the most challenging part of it was the ancillary staff who had to report face to face.
Thank you. And just a follow-up, you mentioned that, you know, some persons are not so savvy. Were there any exploration of, you know, development of new skills? How did you adapt in terms of, as you know, the school environment is a face-to-face thing every day. But now that there is remote work, was there that platform for that to take place? Or is it that your institution had to implement new software, install new software, bring in new technology? How did your staff adapt to the environment with COVID and the new skills that are now needed to survive in this environment?
Okay, we were already in the technological phase of things. So what had happened, we had to acquire like Zoom accounts in an effort to be able to train the staff who were not so savvy. We had to get these to assist with the teaching and learning aspect of it. We had to get persons to come in to enhance the bandwidth of the internet that is at the school, because if it is that the teachers were having like challenges at home in terms of internet, they would have to come on base to deliver their lessons to the students. So everybody was, even if there were challenges from their personal end, once they came into the school sphere, they were able to get it across to whichever stakeholder.
Thank you so much, Mrs. All. We
Chairman.
are going to. Is that a question?
No, it's actually an input. I'm
Okay,
Albert
go ahead,
Francis.
sir. Go ahead.
All right. Good night, good evening, everyone. Albert Francis here, Justice of the Peace for Kingston. I have a master's in human resource development. I just want to share the pandemic. What, in my view, it has done for HR is to highlight the importance of this sector. I remember when I was at UWI, there was a notion that HR is not really relevant when compared to the finance and marketing and all of that. And in my view, what this affords us as HR practitioners and also those who are coming on is that opportunity to highlight the importance of the HR sector on a whole. So it is not for me, it is not just for the whole hiring and, you know, pension and all of that. As it is now, it is more dynamic. Because the pandemic forced us to enter a new era and shows us that we could have been doing things differently. And colleagues would have mentioned it, you know, the new way of doing things. And the new way of doing things in organization, it is driven by HR, right? And HR practitioners. And it just goes to show the thinking out of the box, the adjustment that has to be made. And it is a process, well, if, again, given by organization, the privilege to do so is led by human resource. So a lot of adjustments have been taking place in organization and is in adopting to the change that we have no choice but to adopt with. And HR is the driving force, and it goes to show the importance. When I did HR, it is not that, truth be told, I had a love for it, but I approached the whole HR human resource development different than many who went in, you know. So many of my colleagues, they love the whole recruitment and, you know, organization development and all of that. For me, it is to help individual, because it is to help individual how to, and I'm talking first is on the outside of an organization trying to get in. So even now, I offer free consultation and preparation for persons who have interviews. Having sat in many, and I am one in every interview who, it is the hard-headed one in the room that will pull you apart. And if you don't get the job, you know you don't get it before you leave that interview. And that is all. What I do. So yeah, I'm.
Sir Francis.
Here, sorry about that. Well, hello?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Okay, sorry about that. So my role as it is now is how to prepare individuals for an interview, you know, really prepare, and even how to have a winning resume, Miss Cole would have made mention of it. You know, the whole
I think we're having
thing
a
and practitioner.
Sir Francis, are you still with us? Having a little connection issue.
Yeah, I'm having that issue. Sorry about that.
That's
I'll
fine.
continue
But
to be coming in.
you mentioned now helping to prepare individuals for the interview process, and
That's it.
which is a key, that first step in securing. But I want to, because from what we understand, you are in the provision of the housing sector.
I am in, and I am also in enforcement because I do work for the government.
Wonderful.
I do have a senior position
So
in government.
So what we would want to hear from you, Sir Francis, is how is it that in this new dynamic, how is it, we know it has changed, how is it that you motivate your team? So before now, you could have probably had a meeting and, you would be face-to-face and do things that way. How is it? What are the strategies you use at this point to motivate your team? Share that with us.
As it relates to the sector of housing, because I'm also in development and I'm doing a development as we speak. We have to do the face-to-face because it is construction at the end of the day. But one of the unique things outside of the normal protocol of, you come on the site and there is the hand sanitizer, there is the wash stand, there is a temperature check, which is the norm, right? What we also have, and we would have been featured on GIS for this, is that we have a doctor that is on call to also to help to motivate the staff to promote health and wellness on the site. Is that outside of the on-call, at the end of each fortnight, we would have that doctor come in and just do not necessarily COVID check, but check up, and if there is an eye or whatever health issues, then we provide that for our staff, and that within itself goes a far way in helping to motivate, because they see this as management now on a construction site where persons actually care for their health and is not necessarily a COVID test. So
Okay.
that aspect is done from a health standpoint. As it relates, so I also bring my human resource aspect to the whole development. So we have a counseling session, free for our staff, but also we go beyond that as in to promote a holistic lifestyle for our workers. In one, these are construction workers, many of whom is in the informal, is from the informal sector. So you'd have an appreciation that many don't have birth paper, a lot don't have ID, a lot don't have bank accounts. And so we bring in the banks, we bring in RGT, and we assist them, in getting all those relevant documents and, be in the formal system. And this within itself also goes a far way in motivating, because things that we take for granted. So you have a bank account, but a person who is from the inner city who have never had a bank account and money being transferred to their account, you would not have an appreciation of how they see that as a big thing, and that within itself, help to motivate and want them to stay on. So these are some of the things we employ in motivating and also building the morale.
Thank you so much. And the last question for you, Sir Francis. I know that COVID has caused a financial strain on the world. And it is, not strange that it may have affected many organizations here in Jamaica. Question for you, have you had to cut any of your staff members as a result? You don't have to get into the specifics of it, but just generally speaking, did it affect your opportunity to keep your staff on, or you had to do some downsizing?
Fortunately for us, no, there has been no downsizing. Truth be told, in some areas, we don't have enough skilled workers. I think one of the good thing about what is happening now in the built industry, a lot of construction is taking place at the same time. So there's actually a demand for skill, workers. But those now who we term as laborers, no, we have maintained them. So we do have staff that is directly employed, and we have maintained our staff components.
Thank you so much, Sir Francis, for your contribution. And we're going to be jumping right over to Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. A question for you. You are involved in the telecoms business. And we're going to be, my question is, with regards to the safety of your clients and clients/customers and workers. So we know in the telecoms business, and if I'm correct, you are with Flow, there is installation and that sort of thing that takes place in offices and in homes. What methods, what mechanisms, what strategies has your organization used to, one, safeguard your staff base and also that of your clientele?
Okay, well, thanks for the extended invitation. Let me just jump right into that question. So the area of responsibility for me is actually a sales crew. But in terms of the technicians, the engineers that are customer facing, then they have to take the requisite precautions, and whether it be the mask, we have to also make sure that they have, face guards where relevant. And when they can prep before going to a location, in other words, have some insight as to where they're going, then they can take additional precautions, because not every location you go will have a sanitizer for you to put on your hands, or have the staff aware that they need to exercise social distancing, etc. So again, it is about ensuring that the customers are aware of what's happening, speaking to them, and giving them a chance to put infrastructure in place, and also to provide feedback so that you can add to the different things that you may do from time to time. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm thinking the same protocol, because I know some time ago your organization had field sales representatives that were going from their door to door.
Right.
You would see them on the street. They would greet you,
Right.
Encouraging you to make a move. The question with regards to that is, since this aspect of it was not, we went through many phases and waves, as the Ministry of Health terms it. And in these waves, I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, your field officers field sales agents might not have been out as they ought to have been. With regards to their mental health, are you able to say, and I know you might not be the specialist in the mental health aspect, but just by generally sharing, has this affected, the inability to carry out the general sales duties on a regular basis? Would you say it would have affected their mental health any at all?
Definitely. So everybody is different. Some folks enjoy, communicating via the phone. Others want to be in person. Yeah. So for those who want to be in person 24/7, meet the customers, you to convey and to convince, then they are put at a disadvantage because they can't visit as customers as often as they would like. Yeah. And therefore it affects them in terms of, hey, I can't do my job effectively. Customers don't want me to come and visit. And that has, for some, a long-term effect. For others, they get over it very quickly. As the manager of those individuals, then you have to have that one-on-one conversation to try and tell them that this also will pass, and to also tell them to become dynamic, to change how they operate. You can do a video call if the customer is willing to partake in such an activity. Yeah. And again, it also allows them to improve on their verbal communication with the customers, because now they can't rely on the look and the way that they would gesture. Now they have to communicate more effectively over the phone, and in some cases video.
So would you have facilitated training in developing these new skill sets, for your staff to take on this new shift?
Yes, we had to go through a number of exercises to allow individuals to be more confident to communicate via video, to communicate verbally, because those who are not telesales agents have to now develop the skill set to communicate effectively via the phone. There's a rule, I think I was jotting it down, there's a 738-55 rule in terms of how we gather, how we interpret communication, how we communicate effectively. Where 7% is the content. You're listening to the content and you're interpreting that content. And then 38% is the nonverbal communication, which is the tone, which is the pace that we communicate, the inflection, the enthusiasm. And then the 55%, which is a big chunk of it, is the non-verbal communication, which would be the body language. Now, if you add up the body language and the way that you use the language, that becomes a whopping 93%. So you realize that that's the most critical part of how we communicate, even though we'd like to believe that it's the content. And obviously the content is critical, but how you deliver this content becomes meaningful. So we would have to do a number of training over and over, a number of, dry runs to get everybody to a comfort level that we deem as effective, over and over, and drills to get that right. So then you become comfortable behind a camera, you become comfortable on a phone, knowing that the individual can't see you.
Thank you so much, Sir Baker. We're opening the platform now for our participants to field any questions they wish to any of our panelists. We have 5 individuals here who are versed and capable. So you may go ahead at this time.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm Carlo Duncan. My question this evening, or let me say very good question and answering. So my question to the panel is, based on what is happening with COVID now, how did you treat your employees, for those persons who have to come to work? How did you, well, for those persons who were affected, and based on the stipulation, each persons get only 10 days, based on regulators, they only get 10 days to stay home. But then it so happens that they need extra days. How did you treat that, or those particular employees?
Arlo, who are you posing it to? You just throwing it out like that?
Right, to the panel. Well, if I may throw it also, yes, to the panel, general.
All right, I'll go ahead. If it is that it's established that a digital employee is sick via COVID or because of COVID, it is not taken from their 10 stipulated vacation days.
Right.
We as employers, we have to apply discretion, and this is a pandemic. This is not even fixed to the territories of Digicel or just Jamaica or the regional space. It is a pandemic. And of course, being that employees are the most important, well, in my view, the most important asset of a company, we have to apply some discretion. So we've taken the opportunity to create a policy around COVID and work from home policy as well. And we do not trouble their vacation days, their sick days, or any other absences if it is a COVID-related illness.
Okay. So in essence, you're saying then 10 regulatory days applied, and if you need 10 more days, okay, you take that into discretion, you'll pay them just the same and everything
That
works
is
okay.
correct.
Okay, understand. All right, thank you so very much. Anyone else care to piggyback on the question?
And since Mrs. Brown Burke-Harris, is on the floor, a question in the chat says, the remote working, is it something your company is looking to implement after, or I guess keep after COVID, post-COVID?
Most definitely. We all can't fit here under the health protocols anyway. And we don't see any huge difference. I mean, Mitchell is on the call and several of my employees are on the call. We do not see any drop in productivity with our work from home employees.
That's good to hear. So to the member who asked a question, Digicel will be running with the work from home. Don't quote me. Are there any other questions for our panelists?
Good evening, Mr. Allen.
Hi, Dr. Watson. Yes.
Thank you so much for hosting so ably this workshop this afternoon. I do not have a question, but I wanted to commend the panelists you have and how it is that they would have given diverse yet comprehensive perspectives on how to treat with the happenings of the workplace, HR happenings, I want to call it, in this pandemic. I want to just commend you all for the rich discussion and how it is that you would be in this mode, be undertaking our mandate as a polytechnic. Like, you know, the polytechnic is a workforce college. And so we ought to be hearing from our employers. So I'm happy for this and that it is relevant to what is required in this space. I'm hoping that the members of the groups, because I know there are year one students in on this workshop, that they would have been assuming all the rich knowledge that the panelists have imparted and how it is that by questioning, you have allowed for this unfolding of information so rich. I want to thank Dr. Hugh as well, and the other members of the team for this rich, lively discussion this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watson. Still open for questions. We are just going on till 7:45. We have just about a minute. We can take another question or two, and then we will call it an evening.
Tremaine, before you go,
yes,
because I have to really go now because I myself am in school, but just to encourage the students, I know sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, sorry. And I know sometimes you don't really see the end goal, but just keep pushing. This initiative by far is one of the best I've seen from a student group. And I just wish you guys all the best. I hope if it is in your future that HR is what you choose, you will be good at what you do. So all the best to you and your studies, my loves, and take care of yourselves and your families. Bye, Tremaine, and thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Mrs. Burke-Harris, and all the best to you and your team at Digicel. And thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate your time and effort.
All right, bye, guys.
All right, so we'll use the opportunity to just give 30 seconds to our other panelists to just wrap up as we call this evening's activity. We come to a close for this evening's activity. So we'll go with Mr. Francis, Sir Alric Francis, 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you. As I said, I offer free guidance and preparation for interview. It's free. My number is 432-6749. Anyone want to the service, it's available.
And thank you so much for that, Sir Francis. And you can reach out if you are so interested. We have a package that we will be emailing to our participants. So if you're interested in getting access to that package, you can send your email in the chat so we can send that package to you at the end. And this will include connections. So like that of Mr. Francis, that which he offered just now. I know.
Hi. Hello.
Ms. Cole, are you still with us? No, I know our two other panelists have to run. But I just want to say thank you to our panelists for joining us and sharing with us this evening. Want to say thank you as well to the administration of the Trenchtown Polytechnic College for enabling us to use this platform, and for the able way in which they supported us. A hearty thank you to our lecturer, Dr. Nuclen Hugh, who coached us, who provided us with the information, and who enabled us to, put this all together, albeit that it is going to be a part of our grading for the course. But it was through her coaching that we were able to successfully do this. And it would not have been a success without the work of the Business Administration Year 2 group. So we just want to, I extend, even though I'm a part of that group, I just want to say thanks to you for the support, for the teamwork, putting the hands and heart together in bringing the webinar to this successful end. So, Dr. Hugh, you wanted to share with us? Remember, participants, if you want that package at the end, just put your email in the chat and we will be sending that package to you. And of course, if you are not yet a student, in that package, we're going to be putting information with regards to connecting with the Trenchtown Polytechnic College. Sir Baker, your mic is open.
Yes, it's actually open.
Yes.
Well, as I said earlier, thanks for the extended invitation. I think it's great what you guys are doing. And HR is a critical component to everybody, to every manager. Every manager needs to have a little bit of HR in them to understand what motivates individuals, what are the concerns. Mental health is now a bigger thing in the workplace because of what's happening with the pandemic. So I believe what you guys are doing helps to bring a lot of these things to the forefront. So keep up the great work, guys.
Thank you so much, Sir Baker. And the conversation, participants and panelists, it doesn't stop here. We are now at the phase of living with COVID, and that's a conversation for another time and another place. But as we go on, let us remember we're to try our best to keep safe and do our best to protect our mental health while we contribute to our organizations as we do on a day-to-day basis. If there are no more questions, comments, commendations, we will call this webinar an end, and I wish you all a very good night.
Good night.